But before we do that, I would like to ask you what your opinion is on the subject itself, sexual abuse. What do you think about it? What's your opinion on it in general?
Well, I think sexual abuse is generally is just a term to say this is something I don't want to do, and you're forcing me to do sexual any sexual activity that is not that the person doesn't consent to. So it's just sexual abuse. And one thing I think we mistake sexual abuse for is that we only wait till it gets to the point of rape before we say it's
Yeah,
sexual abuse. Meanwhile, there are stages to these things. There are forms of sexual abuse, and we don't have to wait till it gets to rape before we say, okay, this is
hmm,
sexual abuse. Sometimes the way someone looks at you, the way someone talks to you, the way someone
hmm,
communicate about certain things or compliment you actually is
yeah,
also a form of sexual abuse. And I think it's generally not just acceptable. It's
yeah, of
very
course.
serious offense that I think should let me just what I want to say. A very serious offense, honestly. That's just it. That's what I think.
So you said something about compliments can be can come off as you harassing another person. Do
Yes.
you have any example of the kind of
Yes.
compliments?
Yeah. For instance, coming from an elder person, like let me say from a lecturer,
Okay,
being a student,
okay,
and the lecturer is saying, you're now you're now look at your bum bum. Like
okay.
that's off. Like
Yeah,
how would you be
of course. In a
so that's
formal
that
setting.
so that's just it. So I think that's a form of harassment because it's just normal. It's not just normal for you to compliment me that
Yeah,
way
like
because we
that.
don't have any personal relationship for you to compliment me that way. So I
Hmm.
think
Yeah. So in your, I don't know if it's because it doesn't really have to do with age. So I wanted to say in your experience as an adult, because like one of the anonymous messages I got was a story of someone being harassed when even she was very young. So it doesn't have to do with age. So because this thing is actually very broad. There is the case of sexual abuse and harassment for adults, rape. Then there is the one for kids as well.
yeah,
Then, and if we're talking about for adults, we would most likely center more on the female gender.
yeah,
But if you want to talk about the male gender, it's a different conversation entirely because it's not as rampant as the one for women, but it has its own effect as well on the man nature. From boyhood to becoming a man, we're going to get to that part soon.
okay.
But in your own experience, have you had like a personal encounter of someone attempting to harass you? Harassment, I can place a bet right now that you must have had an experience on that one. On harassment, it might be with comments or whatnot. But like in other ways, have you had any experience at all?
Yes, yes. From childhood to even adulthood. I think for childhood, I started. So it was during. No, I grew up in a face my slap apartment.
Okay.
So there's this particular man, a pastor. I won't mention the name of the church. I'm not gonna mention the name of the church, but put I can't really say like he did this, he did that. But when I grew up to hear things about him,
Yeah.
I most definitely knew that he probably had done that to me because I grew up with my dad
Okay.
alone. So most times my dad goes out and he leaves me with his wife to care
Okay.
for. So he's always around too.
His
So
wife, not your mom.
not my mom,
Okay.
not my dad's wife, the neighbor's
Oh, the neighbor's
wife.
wife. Oh, okay, okay.
Yes. So most times because I you know they are married and they don't have any children, they don't have
Oh,
kids. So
okay, okay.
most times is this someone that everybody really respects and they
Yeah,
always
being a
call him
pastor.
daddy, daddy, daddy. So I if probably anybody from my compound sees this and they'll definitely know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So they always call him daddy, daddy. So I think if being with that kind of person, when you grow up to hear different things about this person, how the person has been
Hmm.
doing to children, you know that you had one plus one, like, okay, I've been with this person most of the time. So
Yeah,
definitely you must have done that when nobody is around.
yeah.
Why I'm saying this because currently now he's in prison and I'm
Wow.
thankful for that because the where he just ended for him was when he did that to a family member of his.
Wow.
He I don't know how to describe relationship. It's a far relationship. I think maybe sister's
Yeah,
child,
like
something
a
like that.
niece.
Yeah. So he actually brought the girl to come stay.
with
with
him.
him with her brother.
Okay, the girl and her brother.
But the brother did not even stay long. So I guess
Okay.
it was just an avenue for him to just, try to get the girl to stay and just find a way to send the guy away.
Yeah.
So we notice that he's always so protective of her. Like, yes,
Okay.
very protective of her. He would probably send someone else's child on errand, but once he just find out that, okay, maybe another person's dad wants to send that girl on errand, he's always very anxious about something, like probably something is coming up on stuff like that. So what happened was that I think the girl spoke. She goes to a government school, so she spoke about it in school. Maybe a teacher heard, and they took it up. Being a government school, so it was quite easy. So that's how he end up in character.
So he was found guilty of assaulting her.
Yes, and most kids, then when I grew up, most kids always say, "Daddy touched me, Daddy did this, Daddy did." So, but they don't. I don't know why they did. They didn't really take it up. They just felt like probably it was just normal.
So he had to fall to a listening ear, someone who actually cared.
Yes.
So now that's another problem about harassment and abuse, because for the kids that spoke at that time when you were still young, they must have mentioned it to their parents, or maybe to elderly people around them, or maybe even around it. But I'm very sure someone older would have heard about it as well, but maybe think they are being too childish and not believe them. And as I tell everyone who have a child or who is planning to have a child, that your kids are people you listen to. You don't just assume, okay, it's just a child being delusional or thinking things or saying, pay close attention, especially the female child, even the male child as well. Because when they say things, it is based on their own, and they don't usually have many reasons to lie. They say things the way they see it.
Yes.
So if you're like, no, or you're trusting a friend or a neighbor or a pastor or a teacher too much than what your child has said. If your child tells you, my uncle is wearing red shoe to school, don't just laugh it off and be like, no, it's not red. I'm just using that as an instance, and believe the uncle must be wearing a black shoe. Check yourself. Ask questions around. You can do a background check of that person. Look for where they live. Ask neighbors about them, because sometimes the neighbors know more about them than their colleagues at work. So that being said, I'm actually sorry that you had to go through living with somebody like that. But like I always say, it's rare to see someone who didn't have such experience, especially for the female gender. I have my own experience. I have my own experience as well as a young child. Even as a boy, I had. Let me see. It was just one, but that one was a lot. But for now, let's check the anonymous messages we got.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with the single ones. I won't go straight to that long one. Let me start with the ones that came quite short. This person says, children need more protection. The things that teachers do, children need protection more. The things that teachers do, you've been a teacher too, and I know you have heard reports from students. It's really sad. I pray God kills everyone who has ever molested a child before. Sadly, I have to say yes to that kind of prayer. But I wish that was, because dying doesn't actually, it's not the right punishment.
What is?
I don't think dying is enough. When you're dead, you're just gone. Like, realize this thing you've done, the kind of suffering that will make you wish death. That death will be like a blessing to you. Those kind of punishments are best suitable than just getting the person out. Although according to the government of this country, I think the penalty for sexual abuse it ranges from 12 to life imprisonment. Do you get? And to an extent, we have seen cases of people actually walking free after being found guilty, and that kind of thing causes a trauma and somehow like an eternal fear for the victims. I mean, someone has assaulted you sexually, the person is supposed to be paying for their sins, and the person is still like walking in the same environment as you, and there is nothing you can do. And you know in your mind, the fact that this person is out there, there is fear. Do you get? There is fear. And another issue is people around you. It's like, there was a video I saw on YouTube, I think I shared it with you. The girl said she's not comfortable with interacting with any guy. If a guy touches her, the trauma, the PTSD it gets triggered, and she's not very comfortable. So that kind of thing is always saddening for me. So again, what is your take on this before we go on to the next one?
I think I would say this from a student perspective, being a student currently in
Yeah.
school. Honestly, I think people who do this sexual abuse, they mostly put themselves in a situation whereby they have access to
Yeah.
these students or
Yeah.
people is much easily, and they don't have I think for schools they don't have much code of conduct for lecturers compared to the way they have for students,
I
and they
agree.
should try to put that in place
I agree.
because when most times now once a lecturer as a male lecturer calls me now, I'm really meaning to it because what
Mm-hmm.
happened, why are you calling me, is there something wrong? What when I know that I don't have any issue with you, I don't have any cause to be in your office, so I'm really meaning to it for the fact, and especially for the fact that the news have been flying around that this person is someone that that's just his way. And
Yeah.
the thing is that what is even much fun is that they don't hide it, like they
Mm.
know, lecturers among themselves know. They know that, okay, this person know. And most times, even if you now move with this person, just like sincerely, openly moving with this person,
Mm-hmm.
for the fact that you're with this person and if this person is not for a particular thing, you're beginning to tag like, okay, since you've done your own stuff like that. So I
Mm.
think you should just try and it's really, really saddening that you're not even free among people we are supposed to look up to. And you should just try to do, as much as they put boundaries for students
Yeah.
to lecturer, they should also do the same for teachers or any other lecturers to
That's true. I agree
students.
with you. Especially that part of code of conduct for lecturers. It's not just about putting it out theoretically, enforcing those
Implementing.
rules. This is how you should act. I have heard stories from my students too. In fact, I've had a teacher that was a colleague of mine who was telling me, these kids, especially the girls, are very close to you, this and that. Are you sure they won't be making some sort of funny moves? And I was like, they dare not, that they would never. And there was nothing like that from all the students, the
Will
female
it be
student I was
fair
with.
from the student or fair from the teacher?
Do you understand? So eventually, that particular person got reported to me by one of those students that he moved in a certain way toward them, touched them in an indecent way. So I was like, okay, this person is actually one, and I'm actually, it's sad that I couldn't do anything about it because I could have done something. I could have reported him, but I just thought about the whole thing. It's going to be his words against ours,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing would be a prolonged conversation. And it wasn't the only one. I think there were like two that got reported to me. Sexual
However,
abuse and harassment is something that messes up the entire life of a person if they don't get the right audience to hear them out, if they don't get the right process to actually heal from it and move on from it. It can mess up. We have seen people who were sexually assaulted and grow up to be what they experienced.
yes,
Someone who was a victim becomes a predator himself or
yes.
herself. And it's sad because we're not keeping the society safe in any way. Let's go to the next one now. This person says, I worked with a woman who offered sex and I turned it down. She found a way to make it look like I wasn't good enough and had me fired. No regrets, but it's not one-sided. Men be facing some too. What do you think about that? It's not, we would say it is rare because we don't hear so much about it.
Yeah,
And men tend to not talk about many of these things. But what do you think about it?
I can't I can't really say much about this the male gender because I can't relate, but it's it's surprising to me that you make someone feel less because they don't offer you sex.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that you can get when you have the money to pay for
Of
it.
course,
So
of course.
why enforce? Why try to exploit someone because they want because you want a particular thing from you and you want sex as
Mm-hmm.
an exchange? Is just very lame to think coming from a woman.
Now,
It's
lame is
very
one word. Another word is wicked. It's a wicked act because
yeah.
you want this particular person. I mean, of course, like I said, there are other people you can even pay for.
Mhm,
There are guys who would take your money and willingly want to have sex with you.
mhm.
But this person is telling you no. It doesn't mean there are no other people. You can go out. There are others who would jump on it for free. In fact, as a woman, for free.
Yes.
So why would you now? Because a guy turned you down, you decided to take his job away and render him unemployed. That is actually the only word for it is wicked.
That's
Is
really
wicked. Let's go to the next one. This person says, I feel so terrible each time I hear someone has been abused or harassed. The most provoking thing about this evil act is people think it is until you actually touch someone that you harass them. Lots of men do it with looks and their dirty comments. It is an unsafe world for women and young girls. I think I agree with you. You mentioned something about
Yeah.
verbal harassment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we talked about this. But they're saying that it is an unsafe world for women and young girls. It is true to an extent, but I think it's an unsafe world for everybody. Because having a male child doesn't make your child free from people like that.
But the tendency of sexual abuse is quite low compared
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
female.
for
That's why.
for 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 men. So in order not to take too, there's this particular one I want to read as well. Let me see if I can get it quickly. So I'm going to take it one after the other. So here goes. Add two sexual assault moments. When I was a child at about 4 to 5 years of age. My uncle was a criminal anyways, but it saddens my heart that I can't even remember which of my uncles. My mom had been late since I was a kid, lived with my dad and his brothers, so I was literally the only girl in the house. Mind you, this incident didn't happen once, twice, or even 3 times. It was constant, but there was no one I could speak to. My dad comes home late, and how do I even say such? It didn't come to my head. This made me grow to learn masturbation. Since then, masturbating took the whole of me. If I find myself alone, that's the only thing I could think of doing. I grew up with this. A time came when I tried to stop, and I prayed to God for strength inclusive, especially when I knew God. I felt bad, and for the years I did that to myself. Each time it comes to my mind, I try to shake it off. Of course, the flesh is willing, but the heart doesn't. I'm glad I'm better at keeping myself and not to touch myself. I don't like the fact that I go to God to beg for forgiveness of sin, which is masturbating, and in the end, I go back to doing it. It really makes me feel bad, and I feel God might not want to forgive me again. I'm glad God's presence is evident in my life and I'm able to discern from doing anything of such. Now, the second part, when I fell a victim of rape by my friend's boyfriend, this was such a serious thing. It caused a huge fight between I and my friend because she didn't believe me. But my other friends and her friends believed because the guy was known to be a rapist. He is violent, he's a cheat, and even my friend herself knew a man. But she tried to cover up for him. Crazy much, yeah? This took a toll on me, made her send me packing because at that time I was staying with her due to the fact that I was doing a program in Ibadan then. I left and it was a sad situation for me. I can't believe I'm here right now. I went through shit. You know the crazy thing? After I was sent packing, I went to another friend of mine, but due to a family situation, I couldn't stay till the end of the program, and it was close to my final exams. She took me to her friends. She said she spoke to him already, and he didn't mind. I got scared that her friend was a E. I didn't accept the offer. I told her I would stay in her shop till I'm done, but she didn't allow me. I had other friends in Ibadan then, especially friends from university. Called one of them who I was really close with, but the person had been transferred to Lagos from work. I called my dad, telling him I needed money to rent at least a room of 40k then. But because my dad was not in support of me staying alone, he didn't agree. I just couldn't tell him what was going on. Don't blame me, it's very normal. I had to go to my friend's friend because she assured me he's a good person and he's not going to touch me. I stayed there and I was not always in his face or business, always in the room, and then he said he doesn't like how I kept to myself every time. We got talking bit by bit. Mind you, I was so cautious and sensitive of how I am around him, and I always live in fear, sleep in fear, bathe in fear. You know why? The room I was in didn't have a lock. Very funny. I go to UI, that is University of Ibadan, in the morning, come back late at night. If I don't have lecture, I'll go to my friend's shop. I just didn't want to stay in the house. Fast forward, I was in the room one day and he knocked and I told him to come in. It was Shai's house. He sat on the bed and he said he was bored. He got talking and gisting me. A part of it was at Alacha, but jokes on me. Anyways, he tried to assault me. I mean, I wasn't strong enough. I pleaded countless of times and he just got off me. It was like a miracle. The second day, thankfully I was already done with my exams. The day he tried to rape me was the day I finished my exams. I didn't sleep through the night. I was teary. I was in tears and fear. It was like a dream. From 5 a.m. the next morning, I packed everything. I didn't even bathe and I left for my father's house in Lagos. Mind you, I didn't tell my friend that I did that until months after I got back to Lagos. I'm so grateful he didn't have his way. I would definitely have committed suicide, and you, Clems, wouldn't even have the chance to meet me. Thank you for listening. So, this story is a very long, deep, sad, but at the end there's room for testimony that the other guy didn't get his way. But now let's not talk about it, because the other guy came somewhere in the middle of her life. Like, not that uncle or whichever one of the uncles who actually assaulted her did a great damage to her personality. Because I have no idea what age she started to masturbate, but that leading you to masturbating must have been very serious.
I think the issue is that once a child is being molested,
Mhm.
they can't really place meaning to what is happening.
Yeah.
So they just tend to feel like, okay, it's normal. So
Mhm.
since they're not speaking about it, they don't know this thing is wrong or is right. So it's just a normal thing and it becomes an habit. And that's how masturbation started. Since it
Yeah.
becomes an habit for her to just continue and do that. And I think the effect of sexual abuse to children, it's for emotionally, they tend to live in fear.
Yeah.
Because even when a male touch from an opposite sex, they read most meaning to, because
Mhm.
someone had taught me before and led to this. So they don't want to, they try to avoid scenarios like that. They
Mhm.
try to even most times stay away, and they're most times isolated because of things that have happened before. For family, I don't know. I think I don't even know how people reason. I think most times we should just even try and bring these abusers and ask them question like, why do you do this thing? Because there's no justification for you to say you are molesting a
Exactly. No
child.
excuse at all.
Why? A child, okay, they mostly say men are moved by what they see. So I want to ask, what are you
What are you seeing in
seeing
a
in a
child?
child?
That exactly. What are you seeing in a child? The whole thought of it is disgusting. Is not the word. It's unbelievable, because you see a child.
Mhm.
We've heard of child that are even infants that have not grown
Yes.
to any stage at all.
Anything.
Less than a year old. We've heard stories of a year old, 2 years old. What is sexually attracting you to that child?
What's that?
What is the attraction? The child is not even fully formed to be a complete adult or teenager or whatsoever. What is attracting you to them? It's disgusting keeps coming to my head, but it's unbelievable, because
Yes.
that's why it is never an excuse. Harassment would then what excuse do you want to give for it?
Okay.
We have those of relationships as well. You can see where she said a friend knew the kind of person she was dating, but she still defended him. Now that would take me to a part. There was something I mentioned in the last episode of the podcast about women not liking women. It's true, because this thing, it's not the first time I'm hearing something like this. I've heard it before a number of times. Why would you not be able to connect with someone that, I mean, you're a woman, you know what it would feel like to be taken advantage of, for someone to take advantage of you. So why would you not be able to like relate to it? Because you and someone are dating, whatever benefits you're getting from that relationship,
Person.
this person has violated your friend or has attempted to violate your friend. That should be a total deal breaker for you.
Yes, I agree.
It should be a total deal breaker to the point that person would be abusing the girlfriend sometimes as well.
That's why she can't speak up, I guess. That's why. So she don't want all her dirty lining to be spread out. I think that's why she can't speak up. Because I don't understand. First off, just put yourself in that situation. First
Yes.
off, just relate with the person. Try and ask questions first, not just bullshit the person and just say, I know. Well, and she says the person, her friend knows very
Yeah,
well.
other friends knew about the guy, and I mean, he was tagged a
Then
rapist.
definitely the
So
girlfriend
the girl knew
knows.
too, but she still kept defending him.
Serious.
That's one. I don't even know how to. Someone like that now, they might not end up together, because they were obviously dating at the time. They might not end up together. Then one guy from Saint Alex would meet with her and think in his head that he has found a woman. Because I wouldn't classify someone like that like a decent woman, except she has changed though. But if she's still that way, covering up for misdeeds of a man she's with in order to satisfy her own self or make him happy, it's disgusting. It's nothing to write home about. It's very terrible. So I haven't talked about that. Let's talk about sexual harassment among teenagers, or let me say young children. The victim and the assaulter not being an adult.
Okay. I think when it comes to that, most times it's always based on what they see.
Yeah.
Always based on what they see. And let me go back to my root again.
Okay.
Where I grew up, I think one advice I would just give young adults out there is that please, in everything you are doing, try and afford a very good accommodation for your children, like
Yeah,
a private
true.
because once you're living in a one room apartment and you are having mommy and daddy stuff and your
Yeah.
child is in that same room, so
Yeah,
children
true.
tend to practice whatever they see. So they want to do that. So don't be fooled by this mommy and daddy
I did
this
mommy and daddy play as a child,
I did
but there
that.
was nothing of sort.
So are you
Like
sure?
for like that I saw,
Hmm.
I didn't see anything close to that. Like with any, because we used to do it somewhere public. It was either at the backyard
When
or the passage, not in anyone's apartment.
when you talked about this topic, I actually thought just thought back to everything, and I remembered this mommy and daddy stuff. There are certain people that the mommy and daddies go
Mhm.
inside separately. So what are they
Okay,
doing
yeah,
inside?
yeah.
So those are the things that they practice. They tend to like, okay, my mommy did this, let us do
Let
it.
us do
So
it too.
that's
Yeah,
how that's how it happens for the teenager because they are not molested by anybody. So they are
yeah. They
trying
are
to practice
molesting based
what they
on what they've
see.
seen.
Yeah.
But there are also cases of one being exposed and the other not being exposed. Let me give you a scenario now. Let me use a boy as the predator, as it's always seen, as it is common. A boy has been exposed. Let's say he's like 12 years old. He has maybe walked in on two adults having sex, maybe being exposed to pornography, and then he has a female classmate and is moving toward her and like, what's up? Let's kiss. Let's do this. And she doesn't want to. I mean, maybe she gives into it out of her own curiosity. And peradventure, one day or one time, they find themselves together in a place, and the boy wants to do more than just kiss, and it ends up becoming a rape. You know, the child himself is a minor. The boy is a minor. The girl is a minor. That kind of situation.
We call that a rape because the girl actually consented to it. She agreed to
She
do
agreed
it.
to the kiss.
Mhm.
I wish I know things like this must have happened, but I can't really. I don't know any real life story that I can use as reference. That's why I just made up that one. So the boy is 12. The girl is younger. Let's say she's 9, and the boy, she agreed to the kiss out of curiosity, but she didn't agree to the other part that was sex itself, and the boy forcefully
Okay.
indulges her.
That's I don't even know what to say concerning that because thinking about that, it still falls down to what the child has seen and wants to practice.
Of course, yeah.
So what's the punishment for that now?
Now that's something that should be looked into as well. That is why you see sex education doesn't have to be until you're done with your secondary school, or it has to start from the moment the child can communicate.
Yes.
Even if they can't communicate, there's a way they can like pass the message across. It just feels like too heavy knowledge to put on a child
Yeah.
at their very tender age. But if there's a way they can keep children aware that when someone touches you like this, like that, it's not. There was a trend I saw on Twitter. I just remember now on Twitter about a guy saying his neighbors were telling another neighbor to stop our daughter from coming into his apartment. Do you get? You're a guy, a bachelor, you're living alone. Then there's a neighbor who has a daughter that likes to spend time at your place. For me, I would advise any guy anywhere. If you're living alone, even if you are all just, even if you are married and you are staying at home, it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because you have bad intentions. You don't need to have bad intentions. Do not let anything make you have your neighbor's daughter in your apartment often and often. If she's
Yes.
going to be around, make sure it is a time your wife
Somebody's
is at
there.
home.
Yes.
Your wife, not your another daughter or son. Your wife is at home. And not just your wife is at home, and the daughter isn't spending much time, maybe an hour or two. She should go back to her family's place.
Yes.
Even keeping your cousins, distant cousins, your nieces, or your nephew, and those things, the world is messed up. And the funny thing is, you do not know who a predator is by their sight or by their words, because we have them in the church, we have them in the mosque, we have them in the government houses, we have them in schools, teachers assaulting students, we have them like everywhere, and you can't know. Some of them come off as decent as any guy can come off, as any woman can come off.
People.
And later you just find out, you hear the story and it becomes unbelievable. Especially for, let me just say, especially for pastors who have assaulted people. When they say it, their congregations have already fallen in love with the kind of ministry they have. And they believe this person is righteous. So when you tell them there is a particular blemish that makes this person not who you think they are, it becomes a war. We've heard gist about it, about certain pastors in this our society. I don't want to get into mentioning names, but we've heard some are allegations, but when people ask for proof for rape, I'm like, do you expect the person to be making a video of themselves while getting raped? Or they're supposed to have a particular scar on their body that only rape victims would have? Or you expect them to open their body to you and show you, see?
This is how I was raped, yeah.
So sometimes you hear, I was raped, and someone will be like, oh yeah, show proof. When? Where did it happen? Why did you enter with him? This and that. I've heard disgusting stories, but I don't want to like put them out there. But I have this, I won't say it, I have this anger in me about the subject. And the one that saddens me most is when women feel like other women are lying about it. Although there are cases like that, if we want to be honest, there are women who take advantage of the whole story around rape and say, he has raped me.
Just to get back at someone.
Just to get back at someone. The person goes on to be punished for a crime he didn't commit. Then after years, they come out and say, it wasn't true, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. After like robbing someone of so many years. Now, what do you think about that as a woman?
That's very wrong to do now. That's very wrong to, because you're even putting the person, you're tarnishing the person's image, because this person is not someone you know like that, and you're lying. Rape is a very strong thing to accuse someone of. So if any woman out there that is doing that, please stop, because it doesn't make any sense. How would you be? That's like accusing someone of killing, because is just going to kill you emotionally, psychologically, and being accused of what you did not do. Even when you're even lied upon on very tiniest thing, it's very painful. Talking of rape, no, that's very bad.
What I think about it is it goes on to downplay the truthfulness in people who are actual victims. Because you're a woman now, you lie against another man of raping you. After thorough investigation, they find out it was a lie. Then a woman who has actually been raped reports.
Nobody believes her anymore.
People be like, nah, like 2 different women have come now to report somebody for rape. You're just trying to, and you just kind of overpower the whole genuinity of that person, and they come off as liars.